So what position were you hired for by the Racks?
I was the HR director for Barry Rack's restaurant group, as well as his prefabricated steel building business, which was operated by his sons, Adam and Anthony Rack.
Okay. Now, when you get a job, usually there's a 90-day period where the employee and the employer get together to see how everyone meshes and see if they're a good fit for the company. And how did your 90 days go initially?
It was great. They would come into my office, chit-chat, joke around. Anthony would bring me hummus, which is like one of my favorite foods. Everything was great. They would constantly praise my performance, that I was doing a good job. So it was just a really great experience for the first 3 or 4 months. But I became aware of some personnel practices that were concerning to me from a discriminatory standpoint, and I made that known.
What exactly was concerning you, or what was the practices that you found that were brought to light?
One instance was they would only hire young men on the sales floor and young women for the front office, and I was told that old men are stuck in their ways and women can't sell. The other thing that was concerning to me was there were a few female employees that came to me with harassment issues, and it was when I brought it up to the Racks, it was kind of met with laughter. It wasn't very serious. They were talking about the sales floor being like a locker room with catcalls, sexual comments, sexual noises, and the most concerning thing to me was when we were hiring a bookkeeper. I was told to only look for female bookkeepers, and then I was told to go on Facebook and look up the applicants to see if they were married, had children, or were of childbearing age, and to discard those applications. When I addressed the issue to Gary Rack, he said, "It's my company, I can do whatever I want." And the worst part of it was I had just found out I was pregnant, and this gave me even more of a concern to tell them.
So once you told the Racks about your pregnancy, how did that go? Were you treated any differently than in the first 90 days?
No, it completely changed.
What changed for you? What was the...
They stopped coming into my office. They stopped talking to me pretty much altogether, and if they did talk to me, it was hostile and aggressive. They would walk right by my office and never say hello. They would, go down the line and say hello to everybody and just kind of skip over me. And they just treated me very unfairly from that point on.
So after you trained this person to do your job and had them ready by Friday, on Monday, what happened? Was anything different at work?
I gradually had nothing to do. All of my job duties were transferred to her. The employees were told to go to her instead of to me. So I basically ended up with not that much to do. And then I was criticized for being on the internet or listening to music at my desk.
And how long did this go on where you came to work and didn't have much to do?
This went on for about 3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months, huh?
Until I was fired. I was fired in late April. And I later found out during the unemployment hearing that Anthony wanted to get rid of me in January, but upon advice of his counsel, was told to wait.
And why do you think they kept you around that long to, when they said that they wanted to get rid of you in January, why do you feel you were there all that time?
I believe that was to document performance issues and create a paper trail.
Tell me how it felt and some of your experience going to the Racks and explaining that you were pregnant and you were going to be going through having a child.
Very scared to tell them. Right up until that point, they made me go on Facebook and look up candidates to see if they had children or they were married or they were of childbearing age. So knowing that just made me feel so uncomfortable. They didn't want to hire a woman that was going to come in for a little while and then end up leaving to have a family. And I didn't want them to think that was my situation. I wanted to work. I needed to work. I was planning on working through my pregnancy, taking a maternity leave, and then returning to work. And it just made me feel so uncomfortable to disclose this information to them, not knowing how they would react.
Now having a child, obviously that's a lot to manage. Now you had a different circumstance, so you had some added issues with your pregnancy. So could you talk about that a little bit, about what you were going through? What was unique?
Any pregnancy is stressful enough. There are so many changes going on in your body. Mine was a little bit different than a routine pregnancy. I had some complications, so I was considered a high-risk pregnancy. So, coupled with the stress of the job and how I was being treated, I also had these medical conditions, which made everything so much worse. The treatment that I was getting at work made me feel so uncomfortable and scared, pretty much, to go to work.
You were actually scared to go to work?
I was pretty scared to go to work. I would cry every morning going to work. I was, sick. I would bring a bag in the car in case I had to throw up. I would cry at night, not wanting to go to work the next day. I just felt so uncomfortable and just ignored, but at the same time, just kind of treated so poorly, and for no other reason but for my situation.
With the workplace situation, that was a lot of stress for you, obviously, as you just stated. How did that affect your pregnancy?
It definitely made it so much worse. The added stress from the hostile work environment, along with, not knowing if I was going to have a job the next day. I needed this job, I needed to work. I was, worried about losing my job, losing my health insurance. It just made the situation so much worse.
What did you do after you were terminated? I mean, you get the news that you're no longer employed. What took place at that point?
After I was fired, I was looking for work. I was 8 months pregnant at the time, so it's very difficult to find a job at that point. And then when you have a little baby, it's really hard to search for a job. But I did apply for unemployment insurance. After 3 separate days and 15 hours of hearings, the RACs contested my claim.
They actually fought your claim for unemployment after firing you?
They fought my claim. It took 3 days and 15 hours of unemployment hearings, but I ultimately won. And during the unemployment hearing, Anthony Rack admitted to wiretapping and recording my phone calls, which is illegal.
So after going through all this stress and going through the pregnancy that was tough, what's next? What are you going to go ahead and do? Are you going to raise your child and walk away from all this, or is there more?
We filed a lawsuit against the RACs, not only for myself, but women can't be treated this way, and nobody should be treated this way. And I experienced not only financial loss, but also emotional stress, and it's unfair what they're doing, and they need to stop.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. Same to you.